Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Good number of people we have present today. I am Sharon Constanson. I'm the chairman of the South African Chamber of Commerce, and I welcome you to one of our ongoing series of various webinars, which are designed to give information, update you on current market trends, give you some day-to-day business skills, teach you things that are legislatively important. Now, who is Cindy? Some of you will know her. She's been with us before. She's based in KwaZulu-Natal and has her own business and has won many, many awards and is also a very well-renowned author. One of the books that I have of hers called How Does She Do It? It stands in my kitchen with this cartoon face looking at me thinking, Cindy can do it, I can do it too. So it's really quite useful as a motivational tool. You think, oh, it's the end of the day, it's late, I'm tired, but you know, we can still find the energy to do whatever it is we need to do at that moment. Her more recent book is more business book than a personal book called How to Be Unstoppable. We'll chat to her about that during today. But if you had to summarize who is Cindy Norcott, she is a motivational speaker, she's a business trainer, she's a business coach, and she's a mentor, as well as being an author, which we already know about, and an award-winning charity lead and has her own foundation. She does a lot of things in the pro bono world as well, and she brings up a family at the same time. So how does she do it? Maybe she'll give us some clues on that. But our focus for today is not really about Cindy the person. It is more about the employment of people in today's really difficult post-COVID world of bringing on new staff and retaining the existing staff we have, how we deal with redundancies because of difficult business times, which are really critical. How do we manage cost cutting within businesses? What is important for you as an individual so that you stand out when it comes to getting that right job? Other things we have to consider in the South African context, because everything else I've spoken about is very much a global issue. But what we're talking about very specifically in terms of South Africa is the BEE considerations that we need to take into account. And for all of us, absolutely critically, how do we bring in diversity and inclusion? Why is it important to have an open, inclusive mindset? And what value does that bring to our businesses, whether it's the board, the executive, or an operating team? I get very involved in board work. And in the process of my board work, one of the critical things we have to do is ensure that board directors are brought on board and go through a very thorough induction process. Otherwise, they become directors of business they know nothing about. And the interesting thing is we find is that directors forget their induction. So induction needs to be repeated and needs to be renewed. And they need to have an ongoing process of knowing about the business, get into the business a little bit more than they might be doing naturally, especially today when most of our board meetings are held remotely. And due to cost, due to location, due to convenience, and all the reasons we know we can do it, but there's the importance that we make sure that our people get into the business. Now, one of my businesses is totally remote. We are remote from New Zealand to Canada, with UK, South Africa, Pakistan, and a few others in between. And it's really interesting. We've never been in person together, which creates a very different culture to a company which is hybrid and or was 100% office-based before. And the thing that we have learned from COVID, one of the most amazing assets, benefits we gained out of COVID is the recognition of the value of our manpower. Our manpower is not a cost line on the balance, on the income statement. It's not something that you can just reduce the number by number crunching through Excel spreadsheets, which is a forte for our finance people in this world, but not the reality when we recognize now that our people are assets to the business. We cannot run a business without people, and people churn is extremely expensive. So we need to consider our people as assets, which is what we are going to be talking about to a large extent today. So I've given you some ideas of where I come from in this world of dealing with people through my governance involvement with companies. and ensuring that you are getting the best out of your assets, out of your people and their engagement. So Cindy is not going to start with a presentation, but Cindy, may I ask you please just to start by introducing yourself more thoroughly than I've introduced you so far, but just to give us who you are, what drives you, how you've got to where you are today. So just a little bit about the special Cindy you are.
Thank you, Sharon. Hi, everybody. It's wonderful to be on this webinar today. I own a recruitment company called Pro Talent, which does quite a lot of recruitment around South Africa, into Africa, and quite a lot in the UK, Australia, and the United States. So in March next year, my company will be 30 years old. Can you believe it? I think I'm underestimating it. And you know, it's morphed over the years. It's literally gone from being a recruitment agency that focused on temporary staffing to now literally 99% permanent staffing, and incredibly specialized. You know, so we focus a lot on medical, insurance, IT, and technical and financial. Those are our top categories. So, you know, I just found that the whole market's changed. It used to be very much a in-person kind of business. Now, literally everything is remote, and it's opened up many, many doors for us. But by the same token, so much has changed. One of my passions is seeing people get jobs, seeing people employed, seeing people reach their potential. So when we place somebody in a great role and we know that they're happy and they're satisfied, you know, we ring a bell in the office and we go, we've changed a life. So, you know, I think it's quite important to see the meaning in what we do in our jobs. So for me, it's quite exciting to be able to help people find that great job, that better job. And my intention is that they stay there a long time and grow in the company, not come back a year later to hop to the next one. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And the part that was really interesting there is just seeing your face light up with passion, engagement, ownership, when you talked about the value you gain personally out of giving somebody that perfect job that they needed. Just a completely arbitrary question. If somebody's looking for a job in the fields that you have experienced, which obviously is South Africa and specific industries you've just referenced, how long is it taking for an employer to find the right person? And the second question, how long is it taking the individual to find that great job?
I think it's taking a lot longer for the individual to find the right job. And it's purely, I think, a case of supply and demand. I think it does depend in the category you're in. So if you are a candidate in top talent, so you've got a scarce skill that the world wants, and you market yourself aggressively and you go through the right steps to find a job, like, you know, being on LinkedIn, registering with agencies, you know, responding to available positions, you should be able to find a job relatively quickly, say within 1 month. I find a lot of our clients are taking a little bit longer now than they were. And the main reason is they are not happy with the quality of the talent that's available. So in South Africa, being a third world country, we are suffering from a brain drain like all other third world countries. And what we're also finding, this is quite an interesting trend, Sharon. A lot of international companies are hiring South African employees to work from their homes in South Africa, but working the UK hours or working the American hours. So what they're doing is they are actually getting good resources in South African rands. And so what we're finding is a lot of people are working from home, from the comfort of their home, but they have the luxury and the excitement and all the possibility and opportunities that come from working for an international company. So we are seeing a lot of that, which is exciting, I think.
It is exciting. Through some of our members within the chamber, one of our new platinum members specifically, Newton, they are working very aggressively in the business process outsourcing space. And through the chamber, we are able to find them markets in the UK to employ South Africans, but not contribute towards the brain drain. And at the same time, like you do, you work in two worlds, the charity world and you work in the business world, is the ability to actually provide an outcome for every one seat they actually donate to a charity and and change a child's life, as well as give a adult a job who is now working, to your point, for an international organization, earning respectable money, getting quality of life, but they are not having to go and live somewhere else. And yet they're earning very much a salary that they would bring home if they were in the UK, plus all the other costs and getting the money back to South Africa. So it is definitely a new world for South Africans. What is the appetite that individuals are having to the attitude of working from home? Because we have to accept we live in many house demographic range in South Africa, from a luxury house in Clifton, for example. I love the view there, down to people who are living, I went to go and visit a school in Khayelitsha. Khayelitsha's living standards are very different, for example, to somebody who might be living in your neighborhood. How are those people managing that, or are some just not able to work from home?
So what we're noticing is that there are a lot of candidates saying that they would love to work from home. For many candidates who have got something to offer, they've got specialized skills, they are insisting on working from home. They are insisting on having the flexibility, but with no corresponding salary sacrifice. So we are seeing a lot of that. We look at software, we look in certain IT roles, financial roles, certain other roles where we're getting a lot of candidates possibly work from home is a motivation because they have children. Sharon, one thing that is quite alarming that we are seeing is there's this concept of the working poor in South Africa at the moment. I'll give you an example. My charity helps out at a soup kitchen at 5:36 in the evening. We are seeing blue collar workers arrive for a soup kitchen. They come dressed from work. They will wait an hour and a half to get food, and then they will walk home or go to the bus or the taxi. So what you're finding is a lot of people are saying they would love some form of flexibility. The main reason is that they don't have to spend money on taxi fare. For some blue-collar workers, it's a third of their salary is spent on transport. So, to take that out, or for certain people, they would love to work from home. It saves them time, it saves them stress. However, for many people who come from disadvantaged backgrounds, they're not set up. They don't have the privacy. They don't have the space. They don't have the, the infrastructure, not even the computer, desk, chair. So for a lot of people, it's not possible. So you get two sides, people who are on the top end of the spectrum demanding to work from home, people at the bottom wishing they could work from home purely just to save that travel money.
And a lot of that, I would guess, is depending on the skill set. If you are a desk-orientated individual, your skill sets are aligned to working remotely. But if you're working on the plant manufacturing cars on the conveyor belt, I don't think you can do that one from home very easily. So to your point, the blue-collar worker, someone who has to come in, isn't highly paid, is really struggling because their skill set doesn't give them the flexibility they want. I would guess there are probably quite a few people. I know when we were younger, how many of us had two jobs so you could put your kids through school or university, or to plan just to have the family holiday. So many of us when we were younger had two jobs. How is that today? Are people doing that now?
Absolutely. I was talking to a lady last week who has a high-level role as a buyer, an international buyer in a company, but she's actually not getting by. And she said she's on online sites. She's training people. She's doing some foreign training, teaching, and she's also doing Excel spreadsheet work for other companies. So what we are seeing is there's a global trend towards the gig economy now, which I think is quite exciting. But what you're finding is the reason why a lot of people are doing this on top of their day job is that they are not coming out. And as you say, whether it's to cover the cost of living as it is now, or whether it's to save for that holiday or a car, We are seeing a lot of that happening. So there's definitely a growth in that gig economy. I know many candidates who are they've got a side hustle, and yeah, there's a big entrepreneurial appetite in South Africa. If you just go to our local flea markets and that, you can see, they say necessity is the mother of invention, but you see a lot of people with something new, something unusual, something creative. I think it's wonderful. And also I've noticed, over the last 3 years, a lot of people were retrenched from jobs they didn't necessarily even like. They then started processing a hobby into a business, and now don't have to go back to that job because their hobby has turned into a profitable income. So that's quite exciting to see people where they had their backs were against the wall. They had nothing to lose. They would never have made that courageous move before. But, they managed.
Now they can or have. And interesting to that point, you were talking about a side hustle. How many times have we seen in the decades past, recently and through COVID and before, where there was a hobby for one of the partners in the household, and that has turned out to become the income earner for the household, and the one who was doing the ordinary standard white collar, blue collar worker job is now supporting the side hustle, which has now become the mainstream income for the family. And we've seen that so often in the years past, where an accountant has now started doing the books for his wife's business, and now he's working full time for the wife's business because that's actually earning them more money. So it's interesting how some of these things have occurred in the past, but there are some significant changes that COVID has brought us. We were talking a moment ago where we discussed the issue of the lack of ability some people have to work from home. So if you're looking in the UK, we have a circumstance in the UK where so many people are in house share. And that is a common activity. You see it globally. People are sharing homes, and therefore, to your point, don't have silence, don't have the space, don't have a desk, all the things that are not available. So to the point of one of the questions that's come from the audience is, has there become a growth in the workspace place that people can go to deliver their work from home service to their company, because they cannot technically do it at home, but they can do it remotely? And it can be around the corner at a local coffee shop, or it can be we used to have the wee spaces and things, and these some of these companies didn't make it through COVID. But actually, when you think about it, now must be an ideal time for that space.
Absolutely. I know quite a few people who own flexible offices that they rent out, whether it's on an hourly basis, daily basis, monthly basis, and it's a burgeoning industry right now. Also, what we're finding is a lot of the coffee shops are offering workstations. However, you look at the Gen Zs and the millennials, and they love to do that. But for many people, they say they cannot actually afford the coffee, or so it is a bit of a catch-22 situation. So I find what some people do, if they are working from home, it will be a treat to go and work from a coffee shop once or twice a week to get that social fix. Never mind, just a coffee. I think it's the variety. It's the social stimulation.
The noise.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think there are some negatives to people working from home entirely. They're becoming quite unsocial, and isolated.
People are becoming massive introverts. And we ran a course, webinar, actually an in-person one that we streamed live recently, where we had a lady who was talking about how necessary it is to reteach people to be social, to ask questions, to be in a noisy environment, and to add value to their businesses in that space. So to your point, absolutely. But now,
Sharon, can I add on something there? I've also noticed in the world we live in with webinars, there's a saying: if you are attending a meeting, say it's in your company, and you do not speak in the meeting, you probably shouldn't have been there. So I think one thing I've noticed is a lot of people are actually putting targets on their back by being so invisible. So I think for
Yes.
me, I would encourage anybody who is in a company, when you are on an online meeting, make sure your camera's on, even if it's for a little bit of time. Use the chat function. Make a comment,
Engage.
even if it's. I absolutely agree with what Sharon said, and putting it in the, I think make your presence known. A lot of people feel invisible, and I think a weak answer is when people say, "Oh, my hair's not done up," or "I'm not dressed." I don't know about you, but if I'm working, I'm working. I'm there. I'm a professional. I'm dressed to go. And I know it's not always easy, but I think some people are they're creating a cause for concern amongst their management to say, "Oh, this person's never, they never answer anything. They never say anything." So I think that coming up with that an idea, engaging, even if it is just online, or even
Mhm.
sending a WhatsApp or a voice note to your boss or your colleagues. "Hi, how are you doing? Thinking about you." I know some people cannot bear the thought of being on the phone, but I think that is important.
I couldn't agree with you more. And the one thing, and maybe just before, I've got lots of other questions, but this one has really triggered an interest for me, is the why? What is the psychology in individuals to be off camera? I get off mic unless you're speaking. Absolutely get that one. If we're in a meeting, I want to watch body language. Yes, you can still multitask if you have to. And because some people say to me, "Well, I don't want to be on camera because I need to multitask." Well, then why are you in the meeting? First
Yeah.
question. Second one is, if you have to multitask to do something that's relevant to the meeting, I get that. That's fine. Um, so outside of those two issues, why are we getting this kind of, "I'm not present, I don't want to be present, I don't want to be visible"? Because to your point, you get looked over in every respect of the
Absolutely.
business.
So I think there is that level of social unfitness that some people have got. They've become more introverted. A lot of people are suffering from burnout. The thought of connecting with people is just too much right now. They've got limited capacity. They're at the other end of trauma. There's that. I think for a lot of people, though, what they're doing right now is, when they are this work from anywhere, work from home existence, they're doing a little bit more life than work. So the reason they don't want to be on the screen is that they're on the side of the field, they're in the car, they're in the shop, they're trying to do three things at once. We've seen it. And I think, and it's difficult because for many of us, especially women, or people who are single parents, if you've got children to raise and a job, you actually do have two jobs. But I think there's a level where some people are taking it a bit to the extreme, and where they're trying to get a lot done. You might find that they
Mhm,
have fewer hours that they are dedicating to work. So when there is a meeting, there's a psychology where you see it as downtime. So in that
mhm,
meeting, I've got 1 hour with Sharon, and I can probably get through 15 emails. Instead of
mhm.
so the problem is, what we're doing is we're creating ADD wherever we are. We're not present. So you
Mhm.
can
Yeah,
half listen to this
exactly.
webinar and half do your emails. They
And
reckon
you,
that you are more likely to perform better drunk than you are multitasking. So I think the encouragement is to try and focus on whatever you are. If you
yeah.
choose to be on the webinar or in the meeting, be there, be present, be engaged. Then go into your. I think so many of us have just merged everything. Work is life, life is work. I've got emails, I've got meetings, and we all trying to do everything at once. And as a result, we constantly shattered because our attention
Mhm,
is splintered in a million directions.
mhm. Talking to a couple of the financial services organizations in the UK, for example, and recently to one of the big four here locally in South Africa, and the mindset of management is, we are absolutely struggling to get commitment, to get deliverables, to get accountability, to trust, to get time management out of the teams that are working remotely. And I am seeing a much higher degree of, "You will come to work," or "We'll employ somebody who will come to work."
Mm.
So is the table going to change where the employer, and it will only apply in certain industries, not everywhere, I accept that. So there's always going to be a gray area. how's that going to be received by the employee market? And will they go SMEs, or they go work for companies that will, or will the mindset start to change that people will become more corporately accountable?
I think we're seeing a massive shift back to the office in South Africa. So if I look at the clients we work with, many of whom we've dealt with for many years, I think what happened is a lot of companies went from this corporate profit mode. COVID hit, and all of a sudden we had to go into this compassion mode. I think some people overdid it, and they can't find that middle line back again to say, wait a minute, we also need to be a profitable business. It can't be all about how you're feeling and what do you need, but what the business needs. I kind of smirk when I see that quote by Elon Musk. He said, you come back to work now, or you can pretend to work elsewhere. And, I thought that was quite classic. But I think some people are seeing the benefits of productivity, of being back together. So what I think a lot of people are trying to do is they say, do the admin, do the easier work at back at home, but use the office for meetings, for collaboration, for high level thinking, and for connection. But yeah, I think it's absolutely. And so I think it's dangerous to have all one or the other. You know what I'm saying? So you're just to your point about blue collar workers and people where their job is involved being at the office. I just want to share something we did. We own a recruitment company. There's about 15 staff. What I did with each one was I said to them, listen, we like to be at the office. Most of us engage better. But what does flexibility look like for you? And, to be honest with you, we're so scared as business owners or managers to have that a conversation, because you almost feel like they're going to say, well, 5 days a week, I'll never want to see you again. But for what I found for a lot of my staff, they saw the value of the teamwork, the camaraderie, and the collaboration that they have at the office, and it makes them more money. So they are invested in that. But what I found interesting was, for some people, it was a case of, can I come in 20 minutes later? The one person said, I battle with the traffic every morning. If I could come in 20 minutes later, I would come in so unstressed. I've got one person who wants to be at work an hour later, but he works until late every day. So I think that the biggest problem that employers have is they are so scared of setting precedents. But, talking to the concept of retention, I think so often what employers have done is it been so hard and fast about, you will be here from 8 to 4:30, no excuses, that what's happened is they've ended up losing somebody great, only to replace them with somebody who wasn't even that good. So if you say your staff are your greatest assets, and it's possible to create some flexibility. So for instance, I've got, we've always had every second Friday you leave at 12:30. That's just a standard rule. But I think things that we should be doing in the workplace are, parents should not have to beg for permission to take a child to a doctor. We shouldn't have to lie we're doing something else if there's a sports day. If there's a death in the family, give the person the time off. So I think it's about being human, and having empathy, but also having intelligence with it. You very soon learn, why do I feel a level of distrust towards John or Susan? There's a reason for that. It's not because you're a distrusting person. They have shown you, they reveal that over the last 3 years, they have not met their deadlines. So I think some people have used COVID completely to their own benefit, and it's not been a fair trade exchange between them and the company. So what we found is, now we've said to our staff, what does flexibility look like? So I've got one person who says, can I work just 1 day a week? It'll help me from home. And of course you can. So I think we're scared of what people are going to say. But the thing is, a lot of people are generally quite reasonable. So, so for me, it's at least an 80% at the office, which I think is great.
I think that makes a huge difference, that degree of number of people at the office. But you were talking about trust and being able to trust people. If, for example, that person in question says, do you mind if I come in an hour later because I just don't do traffic anymore? That's one of the things I've learned. COVID's taught me I don't do traffic.
Yeah.
Why do I get stressed over traffic? I can drop the kid off at school. I can put an hour's work in at home, and you can see the evidence of that commitment, of that quiet hour. They get so much done, and they take 15 minutes to drive to work instead of an hour to drive to work. Who isn't going to see that that helps the staff, the asset, who comes to work far more productive. They get more done in their day. And I've got a happy staff member and I'm getting all the work done as an employer. So why would I not be happy?
Absolutely. I think we need to adopt the reasonableness test to requests like that. Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. If the other thing is, I think what the world we've come from was very much about the inputs. Let me watch you work. Let me see you work. It gave me a sense of confidence and satisfaction to see that I had 8 employees that were all at their desks. Now the trust comes in, but the point is we've got to go from inputs to outputs. Now we've got to start looking at, are you delivering? What are the results? What are the deliverables? It's got to be output driven. And the trust, we've got to start with a high level of trust. I think we are doomed if I say to an employee, sure, work from home, but I have a zero trust in them, because then I'm going to probably be pestering them, contacting them regularly, over communicating, micromanaging from afar, which is possibly even more despicable than micromanaging from the office. So I think trust is the foundation. And I think to have those conversations about expectations, this is what I expect. And then those courageous conversations to say, I think you have taken advantage up till now. My gut feel tells me that you haven't actually given a fair exchange to the company. We need to correct that. I think sometimes we're so scared of doing that, if somebody is completely taking advantage.
Mm-hmm. One of our attendees has definitely been listening to us today. Thanks for telling me about multitasking. I've just stopped and I'm engaged in the moment. So I'd like to thank you. If any of the rest of you have done that, thumbs up to you for actually coming to the party and listening to this conversation as best as you can, because if you learn one nugget, it's worth it. If you learn 10 nuggets, just think how much better an employer or employee you might be. The one thing that's been happening recently, Cindy, and it sort of happened probably in the early part of COVID, where we went through this massive transformation. We're now going through a transformation back to something hybrid to where we were before, is we talk about the Great Resignation. Tell us a bit about what has happened in the last 3 years in the context of the Great Resignation, and how do you see that playing out in the next 3 years or so for employers and employees?
So I think what we've noticed is that there were a lot of people who were working in fairly low-level jobs, earning low-level pay, having to spend a lot of money on their transport, and not deriving terrifically high satisfaction from their roles. Realizing that, wait a minute, if I stay at home, if I don't have all these extra costs, the cappuccino on the way to the office, and the bus fare, the taxi fare, and the fancy shoes, I can actually minimize my life. I can create a more essentialist kind of lifestyle. And then I can do a little bit of, I'll start my own gig. I'll start my own side hustle. I will basically reduce my costs, and there's less stress. I'm available for my children. You know what? This is better for me. So we're seeing that to some degree with certain people. I also think a lot of people had never imagined a world where they would not be working the 9-to-5 grind. And suddenly I think COVID gave them a taste of it and they really liked it. And wait a minute, I don't want to go back to that. I sold my soul for too many years. I want freedom. I want to, and I think there is sort of a pushback. I want to do something more creative. I want to do something for my soul. I also think for a lot of people who reach a certain age, which seems to be around the 45, 50 mark, in my opinion, where they start going, okay, I've done the hard slog for a while. The children are growing up. When's it my turn? What do I want to do? What's good for me? And there's this, I think, a universal need for some freedom not to have my day dictated to, flexibility, so I can do this, and then autonomy. Nobody tells me what to do. I decide. So a lot of people have thrown in the towel on the corporate gig, and they've gone in, or they're working with friends, they're working with family, they've gone for something maybe lower paying but more satisfying, or they're doing a whole bunch. So there's this concept called a slashy. I meet people and they say, I'm a photographer and I also do graphic design and I also train, people on this, and I do this slash this slash this. And a lot of people are finding that that's quite exciting. And if you spoke to futurists about 10 years ago, they said that most of us within a few years would be doing 7 different jobs at once. So COVID's kind of headed us towards that direction.
It's actually interesting in that respect. You said something a moment ago when you talk about slashies. It's having what we talked about in that sort of post-corporate life, where people have retired and now taking on multiple NED jobs, for example, 3 NED jobs and the golf game and the hobby and things like that, and calling it portfolio career. So the slashie is definitely a new modern term to the word corporate career. So of doing it, doing multiple jobs at the same point in time. And I think the other point is, and I thought you were going to lead to when you said people get to a certain part of their career. At all ages now, the desire to give back is a psychology shift that's quite massive, where it's important to look after the planet, important to look after children's education. You've done that. You've created your own foundation. What has changed us from saying, I did a good corporate job and I'm now extremely wealthy and I have a lovely family, to now I need to go and convert that into helping somebody else?
So I think there's a few factors at play. The one is the new generation. We joke about the woke generation, but what I love about the Gen Zs in the workplace, they have such an innate sense of justice and fairness. I mean, I was putting food out for a function I was having, and my daughter, who's 23, said, "Mom, look at all the packaging that you've got for one lunch. Do you do this every month?" And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "That's not acceptable." So I think for a lot of people, it's a case of, you know what, having a purpose is possibly more important than being profitable. For a lot of people, it's about having meaning. It's like, that what I do makes a difference. So we're definitely seeing that move. And I think what many of us, I love that saying, if having stuff doesn't make you happy, try give it away, And I think we've all experienced it. Sometimes this corporate grind can be quite soulless. I'm always tired, I'm always on. This hustle culture, I've got to do, deliver. I'm shattered, but I've got to keep feeding the machine. When we step away from the machine and we realize, wait a minute, I could connect with another soul and do something for them. You walk away feeling taller and prouder and happier and more fulfilled. And it gives you perspective. So I think for a lot of us, the grind is a little bit, no matter, and a promotion doesn't actually mean much more. It just means more headaches, more people to deal with. So the things that we, and I say we, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, the things that the world valued have changed. We wanted the title, we wanted the status. It was so important to be busy. I think busy is becoming very last season, because people are saying, I need to feel something. I've had the money, I've had the job, I've had the career, and you know what? It didn't make me happy. Let's try something else. So I
That's a
definitely think,
very powerful analysis that you've made there. And I think those of us who are listening to what you said, that if anything, I think there's some major nuggets for all of us in what you've just shared about what is our purpose? Why are we working? Why do we want to work in a certain way? Some very powerful self-reflective questions I encourage and I challenge all of you to do, because I'm going to do it, because it really is important to do that. People would ask me 10 years ago, why do you get up to go to work? I said, to service and to look after and deliver to people. They looked at me as though I'd lost my mind. I said, thank goodness I've got an accountant to make sure I make money at the same time. But the most important thing for me is not the money. And so many people are not like that. But today, much greater number are. And having that purpose at a corporate level, having that purpose at an individual level, will give you that alignment and match between employer and employee, which I think, and to that point, that's quite a power relationship that you have between what is the value system, the purpose, the strategy of a corporate, and how does that align to the needs of the individuals. And are you finding that both, I know individuals are starting to say, but the company's going to be the right kind of company for me, because they're setting what I won't work for. Like in the old days, we would say, I won't work for a tobacco company,
Yes.
but we would work for a company that was just focused on profit. That kind of value system has now changed for the individual. Where are the corporates sitting now in that power relationship with the employee? And we've been through a transformation, and what's coming in that relationship going forward?
So I think there's a big chasm between what a lot of corporates say they care about and what they actually care about. So a lot of companies are saying, you know what, we care about our people, we care about the environment, and then they'll go and reveal themselves by their actions. So I recently heard of a term called wellness washing. So in 2023, every company should be speaking to the mental wellness of their staff, because this is a universal crisis. People are not well. They are anxious, they are depressed, they are exhausted, and they are really, really battling to cope. So companies that are saying,
it's absolutely real.
It's real, it's endemic. So then what's happening is companies are saying, we care, look at us, we do this. Then what they do is they'll host a little wellness day, or they'll do something, they'll tick that box. But when somebody comes and says, I am not okay, they're not really offering the help. When somebody says, I need sick leave, there's this almost covert disdain. You're taking a day off, or that, we care about your work-life balance, but I'm going to spew 400 emails to you over the weekend, and I'm going to phone you and WhatsApp you at night. So candidates are not wanting that anymore, and I think it's fair if it's give and take and it's situational, but we've seen candidates turn down jobs to say, no, thank you. I got a funny feeling about that manager. I've heard. So they say your reputation as a company precedes your open positions. So people aren't just going onto Google to look at your company or your website. They're asking their friends, and they're interviewing you before they even walk in the door. So we see we see candidates all the time who go, you know what, I don't want to work for that company. They made me wait. They were rude, they were condescending, they were disdainful. And you know what? I didn't like the interview. I don't need that. And, so they're trusting their instincts. Whereas in the past, say, take it back even 5-10 years ago, a candidate would tolerate that, because you just wanted a job. But nowadays, if you've got a good skill, you want that match. You don't just want the money. You want to be respected. You want a culture that's going to be a culture of trust, a culture of mutual respect, and a manager who is worthy of respect. And remember, the older generation, we were brought up to respect elders. Younger people, they don't do that. They will respect you based on your character and your behavior, not on your title. So I think that there's a big, massive move. And let me tell you, they will ask the questions that the older generation would not ask, like, why should I wait 2 years for promotion? What if I can do the job now? And so they are so interested they're not interested in the promise of tomorrow. They want the company of today. They want that experience now. If I'm good enough and I'm confident and I'm competent, why can't I have the role? Why can't I have the promotion? So what's happening is the managers often are the older generation who go, no ways, you earn your stripes, we did. And young people are saying, no ways. You know what, if I'm good, it's your fault that you waited that long. It's your fault that you tolerated that. That's on you. I'm here to enjoy what I'm doing, to speak up, and I won't be silent. And so I think it's an exciting new world of work overall. But there is a major discrepancy between what employers expect and what they're paying, and also between what candidates need to earn and what they actually and what they are given. So I think we need to find a little bit more of a bridge between the two. And there's no, a lot of people use this very false, warped logic, and they'll say there's so much unemployment, we can pay less. But if you're looking for talent, you have to pay what talent is asking. There's no bargains in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. Interesting concept. And you were talking about, and I'm going to input a word, arrogance of an employee. It's a confidence, it's a self-confidence that they will get a job. Whereas if you go back 30, 40, 50 years, you took a job.
Yes.
Whatever was available, you took that job and you made the best of it, and you worked your career up, and so you learned and became somebody. Whereas now it definitely has a very different expectation at the individual's level in terms of what they're capable of being and their comfort at not having a job. I don't. Within the first week of leaving college, my father would have been having words with me, least of all me with myself. You expected instant gratification on that one. One of the things that I talked about when I did the intro was around onboarding, induction. I was referring more specifically direct to induction. But we're bringing on new people in this transition environment, transformation environment, hybrid environment, remote environment. How do we get people to recognize and be part of the corporate culture and understand the business? How do we onboard people we never see?
I'm not sure if you can hear me. You froze there, Sharon. But from my side, I think many people are battling in their first few weeks or first week or two of a new job. Basically, it seems haphazard, it seems disorganized, and it seems very unprofessional. So often what happens is you will have a person will arrive at work, they've had great interviews, they're excited, they got the job, and then they get told, oh, sit with Sally or just shadow John.
I'm not sure if you got the full question
Yes, I
on
did.
onboarding and
Yes.
induction. So apologies to everybody for
No
that
problem.
lips.
So as I said, many companies have a very haphazard approach. And I think, it's a case of first impressions. So I just first want to mention, what is a candidate's emotional state when they leave a job and they come to your job? So now I've left my job. I've been there 5 years. I've had an interview with you, or 2 or 3. I'm excited to come to your business. But something weird happens in my last month. I was miserable. I was bitter. All of a sudden, everyone comes to me and goes, oh, Cindy, we're going to really miss you. You're amazing. Then the boss comes to you and gives you a card and flowers, and they have a party, and they all say, you know what, you're the best. My clients, when I send an email to say I'm leaving, they go, oh no, you can't go. What are we going to do without you? Suddenly I have a little overdeveloped sense of self and go, oh, that's amazing. I can't believe everyone loves me so much. There's tears on the last day. Now we as humans, changing jobs is one of the most stressful things that can happen. And this is where a lot of stuff is going wrong in the recruitment process. So so what happens is I arrive on day one, and the director or the HR manager who was so nice in the interview isn't there, or they go, oh, sit with Sharon, and Sharon's busy. So I think my encouragement to people is, when you hire someone, from the minute you offer them the role, you start becoming their best friend. You connect with them. Hi, only 3 weeks to go. We can't wait. We're so excited. 2 weeks ago, here's a photo of your desk and chair, and then on day one, put a banner up, put cake on their table, give them corporate gifts, put it on social media. We're welcoming Cindy to our team. We're so excited to have her. And then having a checklist. I think it's assign people times. And one thing we find as recruiters, I hope none of you would do this, but often within a week or two, the person saying, I still haven't signed my contract. I still haven't seen my actual job description. And those things need to be handled on day one. And I think so many people are a little bit awkward, like, let's talk about the rules here. Let's go through our grievance policy. Let's go through our disciplinary code. This is where you work. Here's our safety and security. This is the insurance program we've got. And talk about all the nitty-gritties. What I find is sometimes people get so nervous in interviews that a lot of that information escapes them. So when they arrive on day one, they can't really remember, was it a retirement annuity? Was it a provident fund? Was it a unit trust? What are the hours? Did they say I can dress casually? Am I working from home on a Tuesday or Thursday? So for me, I think we need to create a great first 2 weeks for our new person, where we every day they're spending time with one new member. And remember, the most important thing I think you can do with that person is sit down with that new hire and say, okay, Cindy, I spoke to you in the interview, but you know what? Tell me the real Cindy. Let me get to know you. Do you have kids? Do you like dogs? Do you drink coffee? Tell me about you. What are your likes? What are your dislikes? What's your superpower? Telling them about the company, the history, why we exist, hopefully not just for profit, and getting to know the person. and asking them for feedback during that time. Is this what you expected? Do you have any thoughts? Is there anything that's not quite what we said in the interview? And to get that feedback. So by the time that you say the person's inducted, they've been on your website. They know the answers to all the FAQs, the frequently asked questions. You've encouraged social interaction with the team, even if it's hybrid. So even if it's a case of, it's on Thursday you're having an online session with so and so in our London office, and on Friday you're doing a 1 hour coffee chat with the Pakistan office. and I think it is important to get people to know each other. And also, what happens is often we think we told them everything in the interview, and this is the time to say, oops, and we know that a lot of stuff wouldn't have been told. We might not have told you about this and this, or this funny little incentive we've got. We've forgotten. Everyone's forgotten. So
you've had five companies you were talking to at the time.
Yeah. And I think what some people do, because they don't like doing induction, it's a pain. They try and do it all in one day. So the person is force-fed and they do forget stuff. So I think it needs to be a gentle thing. I think a lunch with a new hire, or a cup of coffee and cake with a new hire is such a great thing to do. Try and be creative. You also want to talk about the expectations. What happens if you don't meet the expectations? It has to start at the beginning. It's a foundational thing. And and I think I think what you want is that new person comes in and they left their last company at this high level of confidence and knowledge, and they come in here, and we've got to bridge that gap. We've got to make it a gentle start.
And a welcome start, an inclusive start, having an inclusive mindset, that they are welcomed. You talked about something now. I'm bringing on a new CEO in the business, and we are having a 6-week run up to day one. Calls, meetings, coffee engagements, learning about the business, sharing paperwork, all those kind of things. So interesting that you talk about that being something a company should do, something we have done. And I must apologize. I know we've only got 4 more minutes. My face, I know, has frozen a couple of times in between thanks to load shedding in South Africa. I think running webinars from the UK is a lot easier than it is running them from South Africa. But just a last question, Cindy, if we may. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, and we could talk forever in this way. How do we retain staff? We've now found somebody, we've inducted them, they're delivering, they're growing. How do we keep them?
So there's this concept called an EVP, an employee value proposition. It sounds very textbooky, but I think what it means is, if I'm interviewing somebody and the question I should be asking is, why would they want to work here? What do we offer that our competitors don't? So, I think each company needs to know what that is. So in my company, I can say we have a very, very transparent environment. It's a fun culture. The teamwork is incredible. It's also a company with financial rewards. So if you value that, that's what we offer. It's entrepreneurial. And I think for me, it's knowing the culture. So you're not selling a false promise. The culture is also a very important thing in terms of retaining people, that a new person, not just culture fit, but culture add. The new person isn't going to be spat out because they're different. If they're different, it's permeable. They can actually make an impact on the culture. I think that is so important. But retention, it's a relationship with your manager. Does your manager care for you as a person? Do they know you? There's no excuse for a manager not to know the person's name or know if they're married and have kids, unless it's a company where there's far too many subordinates. And even then, the company might need some reorganization. Recognition. That thing of, Sharon, how are you today? And how are you really? Let's start a meeting with a check-in. Hey guys, out of 10, how are you feeling? What's the mood? What's the tempo? What's the energy? Give me 3 adjectives that are high, 3 that are low. Cindy, I don't like that one. You say you're feeling disillusioned. What's going on? I'm worried about that. WhatsApping after the meeting. Can we have a call? You didn't look yourself today. So I think that wellness washing, we've got to show we care. And I remember
I really care.
Yes, exactly. And that saying people will always tell the difference between a fake strategy and genuine care. So I think what people want from their managers, they want to know that they can go to them, that they're approachable. And Ian Furr, who started the sorbet chain, he said something which I found interesting. He said, serve the people who serve the people. So that whole leadership is, people love a servant leader, a person who says, how can I help you? How can I help you win? How can I help you today? And it's not about me, it's about you. And I'm here to support, I'm here to recognize, I'm here to catch you doing things right. And I'm just here to be in the background, not the only person speaking. So obviously pay is important. And I think it's something most companies need to readdress. We are living in times of high inflation. And we might think, oh, well, they got the annual increase of 4% or 5%, but it might not be enough. It might be a demotivator. So we want to get rid of the demotivators. We want to retain people. We want them to feel that they are paid appropriately for what they've got. And often it's the small things, like in our company, the best biller of the month gets a bottle of champagne, or they get a little gift. We've got team incentives. As I said, we ring the bell, we celebrate birthdays. And I'm always the good news person. I want them to feel that the good days outweigh the bad 10-1, and I think that's important. And I mentioned earlier purpose. We want to retain people. We want them to know what you do makes a difference. And it's a floor sweeper. Thank you. Look how beautiful our offices are. Well done. Or that blue collar worker in the factory. Thank you for zero. Look at what you've done here. You guys are amazing. And I think people underestimate the power of good words. And obviously corresponding actions. It can't just be great. And yeah, I think there's and people want psychological safety. It's a big factor right now. They don't want to. When you get that email from your boss, can we have a meeting? And the person's like, oh my gosh. That's saying, let's meet in the boardroom. What do I bring? Just tissues. Nobody likes that. So I think we're wanting environments where we believe that the person's got our back. There's a benefit of the doubt, and cultures that are inclusive. As we mentioned earlier, even if I am different to everyone else, I know that I'm not just tolerated, but that I'm absolutely part of the team. So I think those are little elements that I think I could add in towards the retaining of staff, a nice place to work, dealing with good people, ethics, transparency. And if you're looking at the young generation, they don't care about your speak on your website, on your wall. They care about their daily experience, and they will call you out on it. So I think it's a question we could ask is, are we transparent? Is what we say we do really what we say? We say we're here to make a difference, but we start every meeting talking about profit. Maybe we are here for the profit, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you gave us a fantastic sum up there a moment ago. And as we have now run over time, which is a point that says we have to now close, not because we've got nothing more to say, because I know that's not the question. If anybody wants to get hold of Cindy, we will make the contact details available on our website. The recording is also available to share with your teams so that we can use this as a checklist process for your own companies. How do we do it better in each company? And we'll make sure that this the cover slide is there, and we'll just make sure Cindy's details are put onto the cover slide. So Cindy, from me and from everyone else present, I know, who have all stayed the journey with us, thank you very much for such transparent, natural, normal, common sense that we can all understand what you've said and can translate that into our own companies. I'd like to thank you very much and look forward to a session in the new year.
Thank you so much. It's really been lovely to be here today. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And to everyone else, thanks for joining us. And please share this message where you possibly can, and appreciate your comments. And I apologize for the signal failure of Sandton load shedding. Cheers,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.